Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Thunder Today YouTube channel. I am your host, Dylan Hibbard, and in today's video, we're going to go over the 10-man rotation going into next season for the Thunder. We'll kind of go over who I think will be a part of that 10-man rotation, who will be those three that are kind of left out of every game playing time. We'll also talk about A.J. Mitchell and why I think he has a very big role to fill this upcoming season. We'll also talk about Kenrich Williams. We got some news on him that he will not be ready at the start of the season. And then at the end, we'll do our trade rumors / off-season stuff for the Thunder to sign certain players. But first, to start off, we'll talk about the 10-man rotation going into this next season and who the Thunder might run. And I feel like we all know who the four guaranteed starters will be, and that will be your big three of Shea, J-Dub, and Chet, and your fourth would be Lu Dort. I just don't see a world where Lu Dort gets pushed out of a starting spot unless it's for like an injury and he's just not up to par totally, but I don't see that happening. So it really comes down to your fifth slot of if you would rather start Hartenstein and go the double big lineup, or if you would rather start Case and Wallace, where the Thunder tried to do that in games 1 and 2 of the finals, but then they eventually switched back to Hartenstein. But for this video, at least, we're going to consider Hartenstein in the starting lineup. So your 5-man starting rotation would be Shea, Dort, J-Dub, Chet, and Hartenstein. And then your 3 off the bench that are guaranteed will be in the rotation and getting good minutes throughout the entire season and into the postseason will be Cason Wallace, Alex Caruso, and Aaron Wiggins. I think those 3 will be locked in. Those 3 were the guys who the Thunder rotated mainly with throughout the entire postseason. You obviously got different guys in there like Joe, Williams, Mitchell, Kenrich all throughout the postseason, but those 3 off the bench were your main guys that you were contributing to in the postseason run to the finals. So then it really comes down to your final 2 spots of that 10-man rotation. And I think the guys who will be fighting, I think there's really 4 guys that will be fighting for those 2 kind of final spots, and that would be Isaiah Joe, A.J. Mitchell, Thomas Sorber, and Jay Will. I still think that I feel like at least that Isaiah Joe will still be a part of this 10-man rotation. I just feel like he's our best shooter on the team at the very moment, and I feel like on a regular season, night-to-night basis that we will continue to go to him because he can get hot and go 5 for 5 from 3 and really carry the bench to a victory. So to me, I think that we see Isaiah Joe a part of that 10-man rotation as well. And I mean, I really see A.J. Mitchell getting into his own as well. I think the Thunder run a lot of guards off the bench, and I think A.J. Mitchell, if he's able to take that leap and like really get into his own how he was at the beginning of this past season before he got that toe injury, that took him out pretty much the rest of the season until April and into the postseason. I really see those being our 10 guys. I definitely see, depending on who we're playing and on a night-to-night basis, you're going to get different looks of guys like Jay Will and Thomas Sorber out there. We're just not completely sure how healthy Thomas Sorber will be at the beginning of the year. So Jay will probably really only be that 11th/10th man off the bench, depending on if you think Isaiah Joe or A.J. Mitchell will get behind Jay Will. But we'll kind of transition in more about this and kind of talking about A.J. Mitchell specifically and why I think he might be one of the most crucial players that the Thunder have this year. If you can get a guy where we're not totally sure what we're going to get out of Nikola Topic, and for me, that is kind of a big question mark on the season is what you're going to get out of Nikola Topic, because he has that Josh Giddey-esque build where he's going to be the ball handler, he's going to be able to pass, drive, and finish, but still the question mark of how his game is going to approach, can he shoot the 3 ball, because if you're a guard and you can't really expand your game and at least be decent enough to be shooting the 3 ball, it's hard to get you out on the court, especially for the Thunder where their biggest weakness is that 3-point shot. And I mean, we look at it from last season where before he got injured, he was going out there. He's a lefty, so not a lot of people are used to him being able to go to their left side and be stronger that way. But he was out there averaging 6.5 points out there. He was doing it very efficiently. and he was out there really just controlling the bench unit as a whole when we didn't have Isaiah Hartenstein in that early month, and then you get Chet injured. You need guys off the bench that can provide to kind of take that weight off of Shea and J-Dub, and that's what A.J. Mitchell was doing. So it's going to be big for him because obviously he's going to be competing with Topic and Isaiah Joe and Caruso in those guard minutes, as well as Case and Wallace. The Thunder are just so deep on guards that if we get to the point in the trade deadline, the weakest guard out of that guard group might have to get traded for future assets down the line because they just have so many guards that we can't really give them all the playing time that they deserve. So for Mitchell, you really need to go out there, get off to a strong start again, maybe go out there in the first week or two of the season and have a bench performance where you drop 15 and kind of establish yourself that you're going to be a part of this rotation in the at least near future and in the long term for the next couple of years. So for A.J. Mitchell, I think that's a big thing. I think it's big for the Thunder if they can get him out there, get him back out there and kind of show off what he was doing before he got injured. It will just show the Thunder and everybody in the league that they still have so many guys off the bench, and it's not it's not just the starters and the big three of Shea, J-Dub, and Chet, that we have guys that are 10th man down in the rotation, really, that he can score and go out there and give you 15 on any given night. So I think A.J. Mitchell is going to be one of the players that we pay attention to a lot this upcoming season, and I think he can make a big impact, or he can unfortunately just kind of fall off a cliff and not ever get back to that, and maybe he's a trade asset where he can go to somebody else, kind of like what Trey Mann was for the Hornets, where we love him and we wish nothing but the best, but the Thunder are just so deep. If you're not able to produce at the high level that we need you to, Presti will figure out a way to get you out of there, and we will get assets in return and just turn it into more and more draft picks. But now we'll kind of talk about another Thunder player that will not be ready to start the season, and that is Kenrich Williams. He underwent an operation over the weekend that will keep him out of preseason and into kind of the beginning of the season, and that's kind of big news for Thunder fans, because if Kenrich can't stay healthy and he doesn't get back till a certain point in the season, maybe he is the trade asset that you get rid of. He has a $7 million contract that you can get off the books if needed, and maybe go trade for somebody like a shooter, or maybe somebody at the forward position off the bench that you like and can kind of get high-quality minutes out of, because we all know Kenrich Williams. We've raved about him. I raved about him in the finals even on how big his minutes are. It doesn't show up in the box score, but the fact that he goes out there and it feels like our second chance points that we give up get split in half, and he's able to go out there and get rebounds. But if he's not out there to stay healthy, maybe we go out there and trade him and maybe one of the guards for another key role player that is playing very well on a selling team come the trade deadline, depending on what the league looks like, especially on the west side and even on the east side, with the east being so much more weaker. Some of those teams that aren't necessarily competing might try to trade and get even lower to get higher in that lottery for this upcoming draft, which we always talk about how this past draft is going to be a big one with Cooper Flagg and all that, but this 2026 class looks like they could somehow even be right on par with 25 or even better. So there's going to be a lot of teams wanting to tank for AJ DeBantis and guys like that. So something to kind of watch out from the Thunder's perspective of possibly trading Kenrich and guys like the guards that might struggle, like a Topic, Mitchell, Joe, something like that. But we'll kind of transition into our final subject, talking about trade pieces or off-season moves that we can make. And another shooter that I think the Thunder could kind of look at is Corey Kispert from the Wizards. We talked about Malcolm Brogdon yesterday from the Wizards, and Wizards are just one of the teams right now that are at the point where they just need a tank and try to get as many picks and young players as they can. And for Corey Kispert, he's another shooter out there that can light up the floor from three. So that's really what I'm looking at personally, and what the Thunder should be looking at is 3-and-D guys. And Corey Kispert is one of the better shooters in the league off the bench, and he is a bigger body than, say, a guy like Joe or somebody like that, where he could play the forward spots and play that 3 or 4, depending on how you want to run the rotations out there with him. But he just really allows you to spread the floor. He's going to be another guy that can set out on the 3, and when shade dries, he can kick out to Corey and get those shots. And he's really a guy that I would like to see the Thunder kind of keep their eye on throughout the season. If he catches fire towards the trade deadline, possibly go out there and trade a guy like Kenrich or another guard like Mitchell or Topic, depending on how it's going. But that'll be it for me today, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure you hit the like button and subscribe button. It helps out the channel so much, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.